Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. That's me, this guy right here. We're out here to tell you a story. We had earlier this afternoon had a little thing. Oh, YouTube. I really don't. The last night's show that went on for 5 hours, they kind of said, "Oh, we don't know." So it's not like they didn't give me a strike or anything. They said, so I have no idea what they didn't like about it. But I mean, I used a lot of people's stuff, but it was on YouTube anyway. It was all kind of stuff that was on YouTube. And it wasn't like it was their YouTube channel. And pretty much I showed their YouTube channel with them on it and gave them all the credit. Anyway, I have no idea. Like I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. So these are early times, and I've been around a good deal. So I understand that, I've been around in times, I've seen five economic collapses, right? So what's the big deal? Well, this is going to be another one, right? And it's really just a continuing of the last three, right? Starting with Richard Nixon and the evaluation of our dollar from gold standard to nothing, and then the collapse during Jimmy Carter's period, and we had the super hyperinflation and stagnation of our economy, and then we had good old Ronald Reagan, the decontrolling of everything, which was started by Jimmy Carter, and the destruction of the safety net, the social safety net. Um, but all that did was untie certain strings. It really didn't cut everything. And then we had the saving and loans collapse in '86 with good old Ronald Reagan. And then we had Herbert H. Walker Bush, and he again did things, going into Iraq um, and stationing U.S. Army all throughout the Middle East and keeping them there, which kind of upset very orthodox Sunnis, and so and it set the stage for 9/11 and etc. And there were again cutting of certain strings with the the fall of Russia, and we're not going to go an inch towards all those Soviet Union states, so they can be free and they can lean into EU, but we won't put them in NATO, and of course we did, and why? I mean, it was stupid to do that, and but as that our friend stated that our economy and our culture and our social thing is all about the bully, all about keeping the South down. Not the South of the United States, but the South meaning Africa, because they have all the resources. They also have all the people. They have all the youngsters, right? They have to continue to cause chaos there, or otherwise, that place would take off like a shot and be the leader of planet Earth and leave Europe and the United States in the dust. And what's happening is the last 40 years, since 72, 72, 82, 92, 2002, 2012, 2022, the last 50 years, basically is being set up to basically create the kind of dynamic that George Orwell talked about in 1984. Right? Talked about the person who put together the Hunger Games, a dystopian world, right, where we get stuck, because it's truly amazing, as our friend said, that our the economies of Europe and the United States, every 10 years, they galactically change, I mean, just, the United States, in 1900, the United States was not a world power, right? There was, Europe and England was number one, and there was these empires, the Hungarian, German Empire, the Russian Empire, the Persian Empire. Then we had World War One, and say goodbye to Russia, say the Persian Empire, and Europe, went into this hybridization of just having a good old time, the Roaring Twenties, and then a tremendous crash. And the Roaring Twenties was just singular individuals taking advantage of the situation and taking all the money and causing the Great Depression. Kennedy's the greatest example. Joe Kennedy basically helped crash the world economy, and he basically got out of the Wall Street and world financial trading about 6 months before the collapse, had a tremendous amount of capital. The stock market crashes. Everybody and his brother is trying to get out, and he buys everything. It's like Getty bought all the oil businesses for 10 cents on the dollar, right? And these guys caused it to happen, and that's what's happening now. We're already up the cliff. We're ready. I mean, Donnie's doing things, and not only Donnie. Donnie. Before Donnie, Obama giving, first George H. and Dickey caused the collapse. But, you take it back to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, he's the guy who cut all of the foundations of the banking institutions. He deregulated, decontrolled, everything, and set it all up for the big bubble that popped as soon as Georgie got in. And that's why Georgie had 9/11 and went into the never-ending wars, because he could do the pump and dump by having his buddies in Lockheed and Grumman and the military-industrial complex make a lot of cash, and that's why we're still having wars right now. Why we're having wars, because all of those contractors are making a fortune by just sending weapons to Israel to bomb the crap out of the Palestinians, right? And the Palestinians ain't going nowhere. It's like the poor Israelis didn't realize that they were being taken advantage of, that they were being set up. And Israel ain't coming back from it, because you have to realize that almost a third of their population has dual passports. And they should never allow that to happen. Meaning, if you were Jewish and wanted to come to Israel, that would have been fine. But you have to be an Israeli. You can't be an Israeli and English citizen too, an Israeli and Italian citizen, Israel and an American, a Canadian, because it's too easy to get on an airplane and go back to your other house, right? And that's, that has been a third of the population. They could get really cheap, real estate from taking it away from the Palestinians, and causing great chaos. And that's the majority Majority of the people had the dual citizenship. So the guys who were, you know, doing the nasty in the West Bank because they can get away with it. You know, they can bulldoze other people's property and take it and do what they want and kill people and get off on it. You know, it's a great. You know, people don't realize about killing. Yes, it does something to your cortisol, does something to your pineal gland. It gives you an unbelievable rush to take someone's life. But when you do that, there's a cost that will never leave you. I took a vow to never do harm. And I was well trained, and so my training. And right now, you know, I'm an old guy. I'm not like Yoda, but I have a more diplomatic sense. So my training is diplomacy, not violence. And but I understand violence. I can see violence, and I can get out of violence's way. But it's a thing that this whole planet is going into. And Putin, you know, we powers that shouldn't be put Putin in charge. He was just a bagman. He was a colonel in the KGB. He was a loser, and he went home to his big. He's a big city boy, and he was a cabbie, right? And then he kind of became as things kind of fell apart in Russia. The Soviet Union was on the way out. He became a bagman, right, from the people who had the money to buy the stuff and he bought the oligarchs, right? And he said, listen, you can make money, but do not get in my way. Just support me, right? And a number of his oligarchs he's already killed or put in jail or disappeared. And so those other oligarchs can't be too happy. So, but Putin, he has killed so many people. He has done so much um, damage to the Russian society that he is, a damaged person. So, but he was put there on purpose to do this. It was very expected. He was like, when I keep saying this is all scripted, and my, you know, academic friend goes, "What the heavens?" These people read the script. They don't realize that the script was written for them, and it's like in there, up there. Right? They're not like reading the script like this. So, Donnie thought he could. Oh, I'm going to end the war in one day. No, that's Donnie's hubris. But again, Donnie's he's just a game show host, and his hubris thinks he could have done that. But no, that's Putin's laughing at pretty much everyone's laughing at Donnie. And basically, I'm going to put 100% tariffs on you. Well, what's that going to do is kill America. I mean, our economy is already toast. And for what, and basically, Joe Biden and the Democrats, they basically set Donnie up. Meaning, if Joe ran, he could have won, right? But they put Cami in there, and you know, she's no worse than any other politician. She's a kind of smart person, and she could have probably done just as good a job as anybody else, and kicked the can down the road. But the people who orchestrated Joe Biden to be president basically, Cami lost by the 6 million voters that Joe won by, right? And so the question is, um, the dynamic was either Cami was, it's all advertising. She had a lot of money, but she should have been speaking every day. Listen, this is all the stuff we've done for you. I mean, when we got in here, this place was a mess. The guy's a total fruitcake. Well, all he did was cause chaos. The stock market was in the floor. The economy was like going south. Everyone was dying. We pulled everything back from the ledge and brought it back. And yes, we had to dump a lot of money into the economy to start it up again, but it started. Right? It could have done a Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter did the same thing, but it didn't start. That's why there was stagflation, right? And yeah, the inflation went up by about 9%, but that's Carter had it 36%. You know, so and that, so anyway, meaning Obama, you know, basically, when Bill Clinton, you have to realize that Bill Clinton is the guy who killed the safety net for the poor in America. I mean, they had welfare, they had housing, they had health care, they had daycare, they had all of these things of the new society. Bill Clinton just, I mean, what Donnie is doing is nothing compared to what Bill Clinton did, right? And that's why they put him in, because he, had that little dalliance with Monica and the girl who was the handler for Monica. After Bill jizzed all over Monica, she took that dress that had Bill's seed all over it and put it in an evidence bag, right? So it was legal evidence, and he couldn't get. I didn't have sex with that woman. They said, "Oh, here's his evidence bag with your jizz all over her dress." They had pictures of her, but when they were out there in the backyard, and anyway, nothing goes down that isn't scripted. And Bill went through that. I mean, they wasted almost 2 years of Bill's last year as it because he was just you know using a Ginsu knife, taking out the social safety net, right? And no one talked about it because all they talked about was his impeachment for jizzing on Monica's dress. It's like, really, you got to be kidding me. Because Kennedy did that to maybe 300 women while he was president. He wasn't even president for a whole term. So anyway, so one person's watching, and we've been doing this now for how many minutes? 17 minutes and 41 seconds. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I have the algorithm feeds me a lot of stuff. I look at, and it's not all this side or that side. It's all over the place, and that's what I'm looking at. But it's all over the place, right? Not any singular point of view, right? So so Donald Trump. Yeah, we're not even in Donald Trump land for 2 weeks, and look what he's. He put the brakes on. Our Constitution said that Congress has control of the purse. Donnie pulled that pull string, right? Because he wants to give $7 trillion to his tech bros, right? And that's going to take us, and they are worthless pieces of excrement because Joe Biden did everything he could to keep AI away from the Chinese. And the Chinese come out with an AI that's so much better, so much cheaper, so much everything. And China is the America, that we were in, going from the 19th century to 20th century. That's China. But China's on steroids, right? And if they're smart, they will not take the bait of going into military expenditures. I mean, they should not build a zillion more aircraft carriers. They should, and see, the thing is, people don't realize that America isn't America. All these different countries aren't these countries. This is a transnational corporate state of a planet. We're, what's his name with the prison planet? That's us, right? And the thing is, we're out in space. We are, we have stargates that we are zipping through and going to other, the story is a lot deeper than you can even imagine. And this afternoon, there were a couple of guys there who were really going into kind of like what Stephen Greer does. I mean, he has a tremendous amount of that. He's been at this thing pretty much his whole frigging life. So at least the last 30 years, Stephen Greer has been all about disclosure. Let's see. There's your light. Hey there. Say Bob, hoping message finds you well. Yep, just turned in. Have I missed much? Not really. We I just kind of laid out how nothing is what it seems to be, and yet everything is scripted and has been scripted like for you know centuries, right? Every war, every you name it, all of these things just don't happen. They happen because they're meant to happen, and we as spirits, I'm not this little body here, this bag of water ain't me, right? This is my avatar. My consciousness, right, is the vehicle, the connective tissue of my soul, with love's co-creation, right? So most people, they are just ruled by their hormones, right? They're ruled by their fears. They're ruled, and most people, in whatever spiritual sense they may have, if they are honest, it's coming from a point of fear. Because pretty much every book says, "Oh, you gotta fear God." But if you really look at whenever God's talking about that covenant, it's not about fear; it's about love. That's what God is. The covenant of Jesus. People, those Catholics, all they do is talk about Virgin Mary for a good reason. She was the mother of God in human form. So you got to give her props. But the real deal is Jesus, and Jesus is God in the human form, right? There is or was, I don't know if they're still making them, but there was a TV show um, about Lucifer, about the devil. And he's in LA and he's got a nightclub and he's always tempting it. And what's your biggest dream? The devil can't make it, I hear all these people, the devil makes us do all this stupid stuff. No, devil can't make you do it. You do it. Devil can tempt you, right? So I get tempted all the time, right? And the bottom line about temptation is there should be a line that you don't cross. If you get a little horny, you want to jerk off, there's no big, and it's your hormones. It's not really, oh, I'm going to hell for this. No, sorry. But what the deficiency is, I mean, there's a cost for everything. I spent 15 years having a god awful good time being Mr. Hedonist, but there's a cost for that. I died, virtually every organ, you know, caved, So today I went to my major doctor, after having big blood tests and all that. And he goes, you always amaze me. And he goes, everything is fine. And he goes, your blood pressure a little high, your cholesterol a little high. And I said, well, but he goes, your blood sugar is pretty amazing. It's right, 6.2. And basically he said, and I said, I haven't been taking any of, cholesterol or blood pressure medicine or my diabetic medicine because I couldn't get to them. A, they are in my deep green that's covered in ice and I can't get to it. And B, 2 weeks ago I told you, at least, I don't remember everything. I mean, this guy's, and but his, the organization, the health guys, they put in a thing to the place I go to, and they're falling apart. Their pharmacy is falling apart, and so I mean, they never have. I go there every now and then, and it's a different head pharmacist, and they're there for a day. They fly them in from Charlotte or whatever, but their whole thing is falling apart. And this is a fancy schmancy, high end, super, owned by the large, it's a different name than the big company that owns it, but it's falling apart, you know. And and I'm seeing this in other pharmacies. They don't have the the drugs that are off patent. Instead of spending $60 for the drug, it's only a buck and a half. Well, all of those, I forget what the word they use to talk about, the cheap drugs, but they're not cheap. They'd work, They've been around forever, right? But they're no longer on the shelf. So I haven't had access to these things for 4 weeks. But, last week I got my blood test, after not having these drugs for at least 4 weeks, going into the fifth week now. And he said, all your organs are doing great. And, you had all, we were going to, back in the day, 2014 is what? So it's like 10, 11 years, right? 11 years ago, we were going to cut your liver out and we were going to take 20 feet out of your colon and we were going to cut your legs off. And look at those legs, you don't have a single sore. Yes, everything hurts a little, but you're freaking amazing. So, as a sin goes, my 15 years of hedonism, I'm talking about serious. I gained 240 pounds. I lost it. I'm now 210 instead of 460. So, anyway. So the only reason I got here is that I drew myself a line, said, okay, I can't do this. So I had to change my life seriously. So instead, I got myself in a place where I made a lot of money. We're not doing much. I had a really good skill set as a negotiator. I can negotiate. I still can negotiate anything, right? So instead of doing it for billionaires, I now do it, for the shopkeeper or the lady behind the cash register who wants, is like really depressed and wants to. I like today, you I went into, you know, the medical center with these on, and half the people who were like down with their heads down, they started laughing because it's now other people were like already, I had to go deeper in to get them out of it, and some of them just didn't want to stop being miserable, right? And there was this. I stopped. This is one supermarket that sells Fisherman's Friends, really, really great fish. The best cough drops, and they're the only guys who sell them. So I went in there, and they have supplements and vitamins that I can trust whoever makes them. I can taste whether they really are doing anything, or I can feel them. My little fingertips are real barometers of whatever is going on in my blood. Anyway, so I went in there, and the woman was, really kind of, um, she was having a hard day because they were like, there was nobody. She was the only cashier, and there were no other. The supermarket didn't. Oh, we have to cut back, so you have to do the work of 20 people. Anyway, so and when I went in, there was just a ton of people there and yelling at her and why can't you do it? And she's like can barely hear, and she's not pushing the right button, and everyone was pissed off at her. So when I came around to go to the line, nobody else was there. She was there, and she was like, and so I went through the procedure, and I kept cracking jokes about this, that, and I was wearing these glasses. And she kept looking at him, and I said, "Here, let me read your palm." And I did, and I hit everything that she was feeling, which was not, putting the hand up is just part of the shtick. I saw her how her body was, her skin color. She had been crying. That she, you name it, I could pick up every tell she had, and I just told her what it was, and I said, "Listen, you're worrying about everything, and there's nothing worrying can do. It's just a habit. You've been in this habit your whole freaking life since you were a little girl. You got to stop it. And the only way you can stop a habit is by putting another habit in its place. So you take a bad habit like worrying and you put a good habit in its place. And the good habit is, I said, every time, so worry is not, it's not like a light switch. It doesn't just turn on and get, you're like, no, it kind of creeps up your back. You can feel at the bottom of the back and it's like creeping up. When you first feel it creeping up, what you do is you stop, take a big breath in, big breath out, and you say, God, I don't have a clue. I don't know how to deal with this. Please help me out here. Take the wheel from my hand and handing it over to you. Right? So I had her do that. And I didn't even ask her what she was worrying about, but I told her to do it. And everything and she started to weep. And then I just came around and hugged her. And she just kind of wept, bawled. And the manager's over there looking at this. And then she goes, I feel so much better. I said, yeah, you cried it out. You got it out of your system. God's taking care of it. You're not even thinking about it, right? She goes, that's right. And just as that happened, people started to come. And I kind of rolled out of the way. And she just was doing it like a machine, right? Because all that worry, all the things that got in the way that made her stumble doing her job. And so the manager's like in his little thing by the door, and I'm rolling out, and he steps down and goes, sir, hold on a second. How did you do that? And I said, well, I could show you. And he goes, well, our corporations have, cutting everything. And it's like me and about, we used to have 30 people working here. Now we have 8. And they expect the productivity to triple with only 8 people instead of 30. And I said, well, first thing, you got to listen to people. Second, you have to give them space. And third, you have to give them an ability to let go of that thing that's getting in their way. Right? I mean, you saw it right there. You saw me come in, right? Because you can't miss, you can't miss me. Plus, I'm hobbling along. It was really cold, really windy, and I kind of just hobbled in and got into one of those golf cart shopping things. And it was pretty hard. I saw him. I waved at him, and I went on, did my little looking for stuff, and so he saw me come in, and when I came in, there were all those people, and she was making every mistake and not pushing the right button, and people were screaming at her, but she was the only cashier, right? And this other guy was older than she was, and he was the bad guy, and he was like, about to fall over dead, and so I went around, spent about 20 minutes looking at stuff and getting stuff, and because that store is there's certain things they're the only guys selling. Certain things that their brand is really good, and like brochette bread, that French kind of thick, eggy bread, right? Normally you buy that in a high-end store. It's like $15 a loaf. This place bakes it every day. It comes in on a truck, frozen. They throw it in the thing, they bake it, and it's great. And it's $1.50. You buy 2 for $3. Can't beat it. So I bought 2 of those, and I went and looked at the eggs. They had no eggs, and the few eggs they had were $10. So yes, things are coming. Well, okay, let's see what you guys are writing here. Put my reading glasses on here. Okay, let's see. Somebody says, yep, okay. Somebody says, let's go around again. Oh, I don't step on this ride and have our own experience. Yep. Let's see, the cycle is still going around, but you don't have to stay on. Yep, exactly. Story be creator that you are. Exactly. Now, Sunshine says message retracted. Did you retract it, or did YouTube do it or what was that? Let's see. Wasted energy being miserable or negative. Right. So Light was doing a very nice comment on what I was talking about. Right. So very good. So that was early in the morning, and misspelling. Okay, okay, gotcha. Well, I misspell everything. I don't care. I try to break the spell. So, guys, I was looking at my toolbar and I have a lot of stuff written at a thing called Griot Publishing at Blogspot, right? Still there. Who knew? And it's interesting because that's stuff that I wrote years ago. I just kind of put it up there years ago. And it's the germs of my novels. So you might find it fun because it's right there, just Griot Publishing. It's at that's my little thing at Blogspot, right? And if you want to get a hold of the novels I've written in the last 3 years, I'm working on a series of 18 novels, and I got 8 under my belt. And the other 10 I have kind of outlined somewhat, and I really only write them because I like writing them. Basically, right? Nicely in the summertime, spring, summer, and fall, out of deep green where I don't go anywhere. I didn't have a car for a year. The churchy people would come and take me to the doctors or here and there, and they got tired of me being. They kind of only did it because they came and got me when they wanted to talk to me about something that was bothering them, right? So that's cool. And or they wanted me to fix something, electrically or emotionally or organizationally, whatever. That's what I do, so it's not a problem. But they felt somewhat obligated, especially their churchy people. So every Sunday, and once the road went out, and it was no longer a 15-minute ride to get me. It took them 40 minutes to come all the way around the lake to get me. Um, Jesus bought me a car. And it was a $900, 2000 and whatever, like 3 or 4 or 7, 410, soccer mom van. Um, and it was like, so, but Jesus gave it to me and said, yeah, this will be great for you. And it is. I spent $1,800 of, whatever money I had saved, and new tires, new front end, new brakes, a few other things. But it's a kicker, boy. It really is. And it's not 4-wheel drive, so my driveway is full, but it is front wheel drive, so it's almost 4-wheel drive, right? So it is actually a pretty great little car. And like I said, Jesus gave it to me. He was driving it around the Gaza Strip, and it didn't get blown up, so he gave it to some of the church people, and I got it. And so that's where it is. Esoteric, how you doing, buddy? Hey, y'all. 13. Could you type Blogspot? I'll spell it to you. I think you got it. But the name of my thing that's on Blogspot, it's Griot Publishing. GRIOTTEPUBLISHING at blogspot.com, I guess. So I think that's it. The Blogspot site. Yep. I can't find it. But it's Griot Publishing. That's me on Blogspot. And let's see, I'm going to put my little cursor onto it and see if it comes up. Yes, there we go. Okay. So Griot Publishing, and it's, Griot Publishing, XRATTED.blogspot.com. Okay. That's it. Griot Publishing, XRATTED blogspot.com. Okay? And, you have to tell me this stuff because I don't know, but all I had to do is put the cursor up there and, oh, look at that. Me, I was looking at it, I'd put the cursor up there and hit the button, right? So, anyway, so that's that. And again, 13, you want to read the newer stuff, which is more, the stuff I wrote is pretty long, but I read it and it's pretty interesting because it shows, it has nothing to do, no, it has a lot to do with what I wrote in the last 2 years. But it's like you can see the infant, the burn, the beginnings of where I was coming from, and then so 13, get a hold of me at the dude awake 42 at Gmail, and say here I am, and I straight back at you. I will send you those, and so my novels now are a lot more than, but you can read the Blogspot and get the taste of what it is. And the problem, I'm looking for some feedback on, because I would like people to read it, and I send it out to people to go, oh yeah, wow, it's really, this afternoon. I don't know if anybody saw this afternoon show, but I played. Gil Scott Heron is. I really love Gil Scott Heron, and there is a really great documentary on him at that period of time called Black Wax, right? And so I played him talking a little bit, and B movie, yes, that is great. You're living in a B movie. That's what we are. We're living in a B movie. This guy, he is so on top of it, and he, not only that, he lived everything he sang about, right? So go watch, see if, I was getting into using stuff on YouTube and playing it for you guys, and I've done a ton of that. And the other night's show that went on for like 5 hours, and YouTube said, "Oh, you're not getting struck." It was just because a few things, like a word or two was not like a curse or anything, but it was like trademarked or something, and I had no idea. And they said, "Yeah, no, most of it was fine, but we're going to block the whole thing because of a few little things you." So I have no idea what it was or how it was or what it was. All I can do is say, "Oh, maybe I can't do that anymore," and that's fine. So I'll tell stories the whole time, and that'll force you guys to get more skin in the game. Yep. So one of the greatest things about being, working in rock and roll and recording studios and nightclubs and all that kind of stuff between 1966 and 1988 was I got to meet in New York City. I got to meet all these amazing guys. And Gil Scott Heron, he was born, I think, in Chicago, and then he went down to Mississippi, and then he went to New York, right? And so he was a Chicagoan, and he was a Mississippian, and he was, and so go if you 13, if you really liked, living in a B movie, go watch that. It's on YouTube, and Black Wax, I think it's called Yaubo. Yep. Yaubo. Yaubo is an Australian term. Jane, tell them what Yaubo means. Yaubo is Donald Trump could be a Yaubo, but he has gone so far over the top. Yaubo is somebody who is me. I was a Yaubo because I was always in the middle of it and had no idea that, people go, wow, look at this guy, blah, blah, blah. And I had no idea about it. I was just being me. I was being a Yabo. It's a Aborigines term. And it's kind of like, and they called me a Yabo all the time. It was like almost a compliment, you know? Here's a white guy, but this guy ain't white. I mean, they knew I was showing up in their neck of the woods, the Nookenbah, the middle of Australia near Ayers Rock. They had no phone. They were living out in the dirt, and they knew I was coming. When we had to take a bus there, we were sent there by the Australian government, and and the bus isn't like running all the time. And so it would go like from Sydney to Melbourne to Adelaide to Perth, and then kind of go up the other side up to Alice Springs and all those little towns along the coast, Broome and places like that. Anyway, so we would, and the bus would go and it would stop at things, and you get out and have a sandwich or whatever, use the toilet, or walk around. But when the bus driver wanted to leave, if you weren't on that bus, he would just throw your bag, he'd take it off the bottom of the thing and drive away. And now the next bus wasn't like 15 minutes later. No, it wasn't like tomorrow. It was like a week or two later, right? And so my wife, the sweet Donna, she's an amazing artist. She's an amazing photographer. She'd be out there with her little Leica just taking pictures, and she would stroll off. And, and after she did that the first time, and we were out in the middle of nowhere, like they call a station. It's not even a gas station. It's like a little place. Any different, there were farms and this and that places, but this is a place they bought feed or got their mail. And it's interesting in Australia, at least at the time I was there, the National Bank and the post office were one and the same. So you could go to any post office with your little, account book, and you could get money or put money into your account. And they would, no computers, they would just stamp things. And so the first time, once we left Perth, because Perth was where the big university was, we were being sent there because we had worked for the avant-garde theater of Australia, Plunge Hawks, the part of Circus Oz. So let's see what the magic box says about all of that. Avant-garde Theatre of Australia. Avant-garde Theatre of Australia has been influenced by international trends and local theatre companies. The rise of modern and postmodern theatre in Australia was influenced by international trends and youth and counterculture. Yep. So we were like a somewhere between a commune and a cult, but we were theater, and we had theater workshop practice and see if they have constructionism, La Mama. Yes. So I was part of La Mama too. That was avant-garde theater, Melbourne. Yeah. So I would say when I got to Australia, I had built a number of like Xenon and Studio 54 and regimes and all those kind of things. And people in Australia knew that, and I had worked for Lester Polikoff, the head designer for Lincoln Center and everything on Broadway, and all those guys, right? And so I had a cred. So when I showed up in Melbourne, my buddy, who I was visiting, he was the Gary Trudeau of, let's see, Australian political cartoonist Neil Curtis. Yeah, there he is. Here's Neil. Here's our boy. Here's Neil. So I met him when I was building Xenons. And He was right in the middle of Times Square. There's a statue of George M. Cohan, and he was naked in the arms. George M. Cohan is like this, Mammy, right? And Neil was in the middle screaming, right? And I was with a whatchamacallit, a gangster named Tony Two Toes, and he was tripping his brains out. He goes, "Look, Al, it's a purple unicorn." Neil. So what's it say about Neil here? Let's see, January. Yep. He died in 06. Oh, holy moly. He was the same age as me, He was a few weeks older than I am. January 1st, 2004, Neil Curtis was born East End of London and immigrated with his parents to Broadmeadows, just north of Melbourne. His dad was in aviation, right? So results. Oh yes, so here's his political cartoons. He was like the Gary Trudeau, and so I was living there when the Queen came, and the Liberal government was like basically like Donald Trump, right? And the Labor were the union guys, right? So the Labor never won, and they had a parliament. So Labor would get maybe 20 to 40% of the parliament, but the rich guys always ran everything. It was like 1984, and well, all you could do was drink there, and so Neil was wild and crazy, and he loved me, and he worked as a freelance illustrator, art teacher, and was acclaimed fine artist, having held right. So Don and so he came and basically I found him up there naked, screaming, and I brought him back to the green room at Xenon's. It wasn't quite Xenon's yet, and Tony and Bobby Bentnose, who were always, is it ready yet? Is it done yet? They were like driving me nuts. And Neil was so crazy, they would go and do gangster stuff with Neil and stay out of my hair. And then, boom, it came to life, and I got paid really well, and we got on the Gray Rabbit with Lester, he had the World Community Conscious Church. He had a bus line all over America. He was a motorhead from Maine. He was a diesel head. And here, let's see what they say about. See this bus here? Let's see. Let's have that picture there. So anyway, when they declared martial law in Australia, he couldn't do political cartoons, so he started doing a cartoon strip about me, how to draw out. So I don't know if you can see that. There's the bus that we were on. Lester's bus, the Gray Rabbit. Gray Rabbit, hippie bus lines. Gray Rabbit, compilation of Gray Rabbit bus, right? There it is. And that's right in front, that's right down on Duane Street. That might even be me in front of the bus with Lester. I think that's me. I think Lester's the guy on the edge of it, and I think that's actually me with my hands in the pockets there. Anyway, he bought this building called Cronin Kuhn that my girlfriend had. She had one of the largest. She was an herbologist, so she was bringing in all kinds of medicinal herbs and making tinctures. And I was working for a hotel bar and butter and fixing their refrigerators. And they were all on Duane Street. Duane Street had been the egg and butter district, and which is in Tribeca, right? And So she rented. So we were a fang, and I was living in one of the refrigerators, and Mr. Hotel Bar and Butter, because he loved me like a son, because his son was a jerk, and man, I was always, you know, saving his butt from losing millions of dollars worth of butter, because he had all these ammonia refrigerators, right? Gigantic. I mean, the size of buildings, right? And so, and ammonia is very deadly. So, and I fixed them in such a way that A, he never had a problem with them. B, no one died. C, um, the building departments forgot about that. That was there. Anyway, so he had this other building, Cone and Kroon building, and um, Judy, she had her, she needed a place, and I asked her, hey, can she? Yep. And so we then moved up to had beautiful windows, looked out onto the Hudson, and it was about 20,000 square feet, had a loading dock, had a, forklift already there. So, she hired some guys that I knew. And so her business was really taking off. And at a certain point, um, she decided that, for her business reasons and where her majority of her customers and all the rest, California was the place she ought to be. So right about then is when Lester came and bought the building out from Mr. Hotel Bar and Butter, right? And this building used to be a hospital, right? And on the other side of it is where, let's see, Puffy's Bar. Or Puppy's Bars. Now this is kind of what it looks like now, but it's not what it. Yeah, it's Puppy's Tavern. It's now Zito's. Oh God, how disgusting! Well, that's what happens. Yep, 81 Hudson Street, New York. Yeah. So anyway, things change. So right on the backside of that bar was this building that had been a hospital in the 1800s, and it had this bridge that went over into one of these other buildings that Mr. Hotel Bar and Butter. So that was like my office, and so when and that bridge went into one of these big refrigerators. So I went back to living in a refrigerator, which was really nice. That's when I really got into sensory deprivation tanks, because these refrigerators were like 3,000 square feet, and they were built in the 1890s. So they had ammonia refrigeration, and the insulation was cork, right? And the walls were like 2 feet of cork, right? And so you heard nothing. The sounds of the roads, any kind of vibration was really damped down by that. And I built these sensory deprivation tanks inside of that, and I found these great harmonic suppressants, right? I built a floor on and put underneath these things that nothing, no vibration, nothing, right? And then I built the tanks on top of those, and I put a Faraday cage around them, and each tank had their own, I forgot what they're called, but they're different shapes that fit different frequencies of sound. And so I glued them on the top of the so, and these things were pretty big. They weren't like little bathtubs, and so people, you would lie in there and you would float on top of you. You didn't even get wet. It was like, you know, temperature was 98.6. There was no vibration. There was no electrical anything. No hum, no buzz, no radio waves, nothing. And your brain just opened up to the universe. And so I was playing around with those, and Lester buys, Judy splits, goes to California. Lester buys this thing. Now I'm coming and going and coming and going, coming and going. And after Judy went to California, I had other girlfriends too. And um, so, but I had those things because, Grandpa Hotel Bar, he treated me like, his son. So and in New York, I always had 4 or 5 places, not just one, right? And I never paid rent on any of them, right? They were abandoned buildings or things like Grandpa Stoll or the cardboard factory or all the different things I had. And again, this is what life's about. When you, right? And so, Neil, I see him up there and bring him in, and he's heaven sent because he's keeping the gangsters from distracting me, so I can finish the job. Because if I didn't, I'd probably end up in the river with cement shoes. And everyone was happy. And then, Donna was in San Francisco because that's where she wanted to be, and my dog was with her, and she was with Yvonne, her best friend. And so Neil and I get on the bus, and the bus is full of European underwear models. And Neil is having sex with all of them. And Lester's real thing, so he has a church, World Community Conscious Church, right? And the bus is covered with crosses and speakers with Bible music coming out, because churches can have buses that can go all over America, and they don't need licenses. Meaning, if you have a bus company, if you've ever seen a Greyhound bus, they got all kinds of licenses because every state they have to be, right? So, but if you're a church, no problem. So Lester's brilliant. Starts a church, World Community Conscious Church, so he never pays taxes. He owns a whole bunch of buildings all across America, and New Orleans and Miami, down in the Key West, and you name it, he had a place. Chicago, New York, Boston, and little truck stops in between. Basically, what he was doing, he had farms everywhere. He was growing the best bud and transporting it all across America to his customers via the bus. And the thing to distract was that he had this kind of hippie bus line that was a church. And so, and he had all these Greyhound buses, like from the 50s. So they had the underneath, and that's what's chock-a-block full. And I don't know how he did it, but he would seal them so it really didn't smell like weed. So, we drove, Neil and I, and the girls drove, right? And Neil's screwing every one of them, and they're loving it. And that was Neil. There wasn't a woman that I never saw him not have sex. I mean, it's just mind freaking boggling about this guy. He couldn't help himself, and girls just loved him. It was just unbelievable. And we were the dynamic duo, because the girls would have it with him, and then they'd be upset, and they'd come and talk to me, and I would calm them, and right. So it takes us 3 days to drive from New York to San Francisco, and all these girls are like, having sex with them, and which kind of opens their energetics to a certain thing, because they got other issues. And then I'm talking to them about those, and they're crying, and they're getting. By the time we get to San Francisco, these girls are like, they're less neurotic, less everything. They've freed themselves, and they're just, oh. And we get there, and the bus stops, and there's my sweet little Donna and her friend, who kind of looks just like her. But they're both about the same size, both have red hair. And the girl is Yvonne, her best friend from San Francisco. Yvonne is English, just like Neil is English. And her father worked in aviation too. And Neil's father went to Australia, and Yvonne's father went to California, worked for Lockheed Martin. And so, anyway, we get off the bus, and first all these half-naked underwear-ad girls get out, and they get off the bus, and they see Donna, right? And because the girls want to have sex with me, and I said, no, I'm married, and I'm a really, committed, monogamous guy. I love my wife, Donna Ann, and I describe her to a T. So every girl gets off the bus and they go, "Oh, Donna!" Oh, and they hug him. Your husband, he is the most amazing man. I wanted to have sex when I did everything, but all he could do was talk about how much he loved you and wanted to be with you. And like 20 girls do this, and we fucked this other guy, and he's like, "That's Neil." You saw the picture. So we get off, and Donna's just standing there, like looking at me, like smiling, like, "Yeah, that's my boy." And then I meet Yvonne. Hi, Yvonne. And then Neil immediately hits on this girl, and they're right. So we're driving back in Yvonne's car, and actually her boyfriend's car, Tony. And Tony is an albino Filipino flamenco dancer, right? And he's about to go do his stick at some restaurant or something. And so they come and get us. We get there. My dog is in the house, and they have a Doberman Pinscher, and Bella is like a crazed dog. And no, Duca Delight. That one was Duca. And so, oh, I'm so happy to see you. I missed you so much. Oh. And so, anyway, so we take a shower, put on something, and I meet Tony, and he's just albino flamenco dancer with the high heel shoes and the flamenco, right? So, and he's really high. And this is a pun. He was really high strung, right? So, we take a shower, get in the car, we drive to this restaurant, and the three of us, Yvonne's sitting up front, um, you know, Neil's on one side, I'm on the other side, Donna's in the middle, and the two of them are arguing. It's like, okay, we're like the kids in the back, and Neil has the guitar on his lap, and Tony, while we were showering and being there for about an hour, getting ready to go out to this thing, um, Neil's got the guitar on his lap, and he opens it up, and and Tony spent an hour tuning the flamenco guitar just right, and Neil just kind of hits each little knob a little bit, so it's gonna sound bling 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 bling. And so we basically get there, we sit down, and they give us a nice little table, and it's a kind of Spanishy place, so they have the tapas kind of thing, and they have sangria, and we're really enjoying ourselves, right? And Neil is going on about how he met me in the arms of Georgianne Cohan, and then the 3 months of us, me doing all the work and him being with the gangsters and all the, and he's like trawling everyone, and Tony wants the attention, so he goes off and is getting ready to perform. And the owner comes over and he's listening to Neil tell these stories, and he goes, "Who are you talking about?" He goes, "This guy right here," pointing at me. And Donna and Yvonne have been in there, and he goes, "Donna, is this your husband, the one you talk about?" "Yes." And I'm not saying anything. So anyway, he sits down and he lights up, a splint, and so we're smoking away, and we're drinking, sangria and eating tapas, and he's, just enjoying, because he really likes Donna and Yvonne, and what's there not to like about those two girls, and so time comes, the lights dim, and Tony comes out, and he's there, he's ready, he starts to strum, and it's like totally out of tune. I mean, it's just, and he clicks his heels, and his heel snaps, and he falls over, and everyone laughs, and guy crawls, Tony crawls off and cries in the corner, and we get in a car, and he's just livid, and he's driving through red lights. We almost get T-boned a few times. We get home, and he goes upstairs and slams the door, and the three of us are downstairs, and I go see my dog, and she's in the garage, and they have this big thing of dog food that the Doberman Pinscher like just takes 6 grams of it and only eats that. My dog ate the whole thing. She looked like the barrel of food, and I said, Bella, you're gonna sleep that because she's already going, already farting. And so I put her out in the backyard, and she's not like really crapping at all, but she's farting up a storm. And I said, so you're sleeping in the garage. Anyway, so we are in the living room, the dining room, and we're smoking a little more and drinking a little more. And the girls are now telling stories about their life in San Francisco years back, and all of that. And so I'm tired. I really didn't sleep much on the bus. With all these girls, can you talk to me about So I'm ready. So I just put a mat out on the floor. I kind of go there, and my sweet Donna, she's a cat girl, meaning she would crawl up and just like be like a cat in my chest. She would just be right there. And that's how she slept. She slept inside of my arms around there. And then she would get a little frisky and wake me up, and she'd been playing with me, and so I'd be ready to go. But anyway, I was definitely too tired, and I'd smoked a bit too much. Anyway, so we fall asleep, each other's arms, and her kissing me and me kissing her, and fall asleep. And Yvonne and Neil, Yvonne doesn't go upstairs because they had a big argue, and Tony went upstairs and slammed the door. So Yvonne and Neil are, I don't know where they are, but they're not in the living room with us. And I wake up and I hear, right? And smell like, oh my God, what is that? And then I hear click, 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 click. And it's Duke, and she knows better to not get near me, and she kind of goes back out to the garage, right? I have no idea. I can't see anything. It's super dark, but I hear that, I smell that, and I hear the click, click, click of her paws. And so I just I turn over, and the smell is pretty bad, but I'm trying to go to sleep, and Dawn is still asleep, and she goes, ooh, ooh, like in her sleep, she's smelling the smell and going, ooh, ooh. And then all of a sudden we hear a scream, right? And a splattering sound, right? And then a crash, and then a real scream, right? And then Yvonne comes in wearing a robe, and, Neil is wearing one of her robes, and he hits the light switch. And there's Tony hanging. So this house is kind of a Spanishy California house, and so has stairs that goes up to the second stories and has a kind of thing to go from the stairs over to the bedrooms. Instead of a wall, it has a metal kind of thing, so you look down into the living room, and it's a metal wrought iron kind of thing. And there is Tony, and he's naked except for these little leopard underpants, and he's albino, and he's covered in doggy diarrhea. And he's stuck in the metal thing, and his leg is like going like this, right there, not in the way it's supposed to be going. And his arm is, so broke his collarbone, and he had a compound fracture here, so he's never going to play guitar again. And his leg is like going south the other way. He's not going to be doing flamenco dancing anytime soon. And he's screaming, right? And we kind of, and we're all like looking up at it, and it's like, right? And so I go, call 911. So Bond does, and gives the address. And then about 5 minutes, the fire guys and the ambulance guys and the cops are there. And Tony's still up there, and there's diarrhea, everything. And the walls are white, and they're just covered in. And, and this was Tony's house. right? And I think it was his grandma's house, and he got it, when she died, or I don't know any of it, but it was Tony's house. And so, hey, the police, the fire guys, and the ambulance guys look at him and go, "We're not touching that." And I said, "No, no, no, you guys got to touch. You can't leave him there." And I said, "You're farming. Just go get a 2-inch hose and easily hose everything down out the. I've seen this done. You can whoosh everything out the front door because the steps went right to the front door. So, and it was they could it was another entrance to the second floor from the kitchen, so they could go up those things. They wanted to go through that, put the rope on the hose and and hose Tony down and take him away, and they did, and basically, so I had a big bag of cash. So they go away. I said, "We can't stay here," and I said, "Donna, you're always telling me about this great hotel downtown. The big, fancy, whatever the most fanciest hotel in San Francisco is downtown. She loved going there. She loved staying there. She loved the restaurants that were there. I said, let's go stay there." And I I didn't really have much. Neil didn't have much. Donna didn't have much. We had dogs and Yvonne and the you know the, the not the Duca dog stayed there because it was Tony's dog. So Duca came with us, and Donna was great. We as a team were amazing, right? So I knew everybody. I knew how to do stuff, like all of that. But she was the most detailed oriented. So yeah, let's look up Donna. Photographer Donna Ann McAdams. Okay, there's some of the pictures, There's herself. She's my age now, She's not bad for pushing 80, right? That's our girl right there. See how many pictures of her younger? So Donna spent her whole life. Oh, here's a picture I took. So I worked in nuclear power. So anything nuclear, I was always taking pictures of. And so there's Yvonne and Leslie and Donna, right? And I took that picture. And she got an award for it and was put in the. So everyone kind of knew I took that picture. Let's see if I can make it bigger. Yeah. So these girls are all juggling because when we were in the circus, we learned to juggle. And I was the only one who didn't learn. So this is Yvonne, and this is Leslie. Leslie is Neil's Donna, right? That's his sweetie. That's the one girl he truly, truly loved, but he still screwed every other woman around. So, and this is a nuclear power plant in California. And when Leslie came to America, to New York, we took a nice trip with her. Any other pictures here? So oh, she's got a goat. So there's Don with one of her goats. She was an animal girl. There she is, younger. That's what she looked like when I married her. Here's another picture that I had a series. And, so see, there she is with her Leica. So this is what she looked like on the subway when I met her. This was like her uniform. Oh, this is chemtrails back in the day, right? This is in the 70s. So yes. So that was our girl. So let's see what they say about her. Well, this was her parents' house, right? Up there in Long Island. She had a closet for a bedroom, and her bed, her closet was on the other side of that TV set. You know, it's like her head was like in the electron gun. Born in '54, overview. Donna Ann McAdams is an American photographer. Donna Ann McAdams' work has been exhibited widely, nationally and internationally. Yep. She's in Wikipedia. Black box. Oh, this is Williamsburg, Brooklyn. When I met her, she came and it looked like the Air Force just bombed that place. Quick facts. Books, Some Women, right? Caught in the Act, short videos. But yes, she was a great artist. She is a great artist. She's not dead. She's still around. It's amazing. Neil's dead. That's too bad. But see, the thing is not to get attached, because it's not like, oh, I wish I did this with Neil. I did everything with Neil. You name it, we did it. Let's see. Go back to where you guys are. Hey there, Bob. Hope everything's okay. And blah blah blah. To stay on that rise, the story. Okay, creator. Yeah. Spelling. Yeah. Y'all. The 13. Could you type to the blog spot? I got that. Okay. Hi, Starlight. Back at you. Let's see. B movie. Really smart guy. From what I heard. Yep. Hey, Bob. It's Janie. Sound like cool. Hi. Going to fly off. It's been cool. Good night. Goodbye, wherever you are. Yep. Okay. So I started off kind of enumerating the process and place where we are, right? And that this is nothing new. This ain't the end of the world. I've seen worse times than this, I shot so Donna and I, we had a photo studio called DNA, Donna and I, right? And we were pretty successful, especially I had that studio on 21st Street with those big windows. See, the thing about Donna, I had all this stuff going on all over the place. She was great at figuring out what to do with all the different stuff I had that wasn't just me, it was her too, right? And the thing that she loved about what I did was I totally, and whatever you need, baby, I'm going to help you do whatever you want to do. You're the best. I love you. I never felt one iota of jealousy. I just was so happy to be with her, right? I so loved her, right? And I knew, the minute I met her, I knew this girl was high price, and that, every minute I was going to be with her would be like, okay, because she did some pretty things, and it wouldn't have been fun if she didn't do that stuff. Most people would want to get a divorce or go nuts about it. Why she met me, I'm living out in the middle of Williamsburg, Brooklyn with Hasidic Jews. I'm the only white guy there. A lot of Hispanics, Hasidims, me, right? And that's because I found this great, 18,000 square foot loft for $300, free utilities and heat, we and a gigantic elevator that you could bring cars up. I used to have, my friends had cars and we would race them around and up on the sixth floor. One guy When zip zip, he lost control and nearly drove the car through the wall like wee. Right, he was just teetering there. We kind of pulled the car back. So, so Donna, I met her on the subway, um, and she was wearing that outfit that I said that's her uniform, and she had her Leica around her neck, right? And she was taking pictures out the window. And you're not supposed to. It's against the law to take pictures on the subway. But it's very easy to get a permit to do it. That's one thing about New York. They got all these rules, but you can really use the rules. And when I showed her that, there are all these rules. I can't do that. No, of course you can. There's rules. We just go find out what rule it is. And she, within a year, she was always the Albert Einstein of whatever she did. She was Albert Einstein of the darkroom. She was Albert Einstein of photography. She was amazing, right? Now I have a style, I have a shtick, I have a thing that's very me. It's like what I am. So it's very, very, very. So we used to, our studio DNA, right? We had this stamp that we would stamp our photos, and we wouldn't. This photo wasn't like a Donna photo, and this wasn't an Al photo. It was DNA, right? And we did that for about 2 years until she said, I don't like it. I said, and this is once DNA got pretty well. We had a show at the Whitney and a few other things. And we were selling stuff or some other stuff, and we were getting around. And whenever we went to those openings, I knew most of the people. So I didn't have to, put on the shtick. And she was very shy. But once she got out of her little shell, because she's a Cancer, once she got out of the shell, man, she loved the attention. Like that's Cancers. They're in that little shell, but once they're out there, ooh, baby. And that's what they need to do. They need to get out there. And that was done. And so we had the best of times, for the almost 8 years we were together. And I kept figuring out, she was the Einstein of whatever we were doing. And I had all these other things. I was like moving rocket ships and time machines, and I was part of all these UN stuff. And and that's what she said once. She goes, "Listen now, we're going to stop DNA." And I said, "Fine." And she goes, "And you have to stop taking pictures." I said, "Wait. I can't stop taking pictures. That's part of what I do." And then she said, "Okay, but I'm going to take your cameras away. You can only shoot with a Diana camera." And I don't know if you guys know what a Diana camera is. Let's see what Mr. Google says. But it's basically this crappy camera that was made in Japan back in the day, but then in China, that was just plastic. And you won them at carnivals, for knocking down the, instead of a Cupid doll, you got the camera. And it had 2.25 film, large negative, right? Like a Rolleiflex, like a Rolly camera or a Hasselblad. It took the same film. And some of those, most of them came like with the film in it, you couldn't get at it. And you would get it and it'd be in a box, and it would have this thing that you put in an envelope, mail it to this H&R company in California. They would develop, send you back another camera with film in it and the pictures, right? And so she goes, okay, because she understood that all the stuff I did, I'm an anthropologist, I document. I'm a sociologist, I document. I'm a scientist, I document. So she goes, okay. Can't use your Nikon, can't use your Leica, can't use your Hasselblad, can't use your large format camera. I'll take all those. I said, okay. And here, you use this. And so I started shooting everything with a 2.25, with this camera. Let's say. Diana camera. Here it is. See, they had different versions. Some are really great. Some you could change the time and the f-stop, and it had and I had. So yeah, it was. See how much they cost? I used to buy them for $1.50 with the film in it and get it developed in California. And these suckers, they want $100, And the other camera she let me have was a half frame. And I'll show you that camera. Canon dial half frame. Yeah, there we go. And what this camera did, so I had these are relative, yeah, these are newish. These are like now. But what a half frame does is, so it's a 35 millimeter piece of film, and it only takes a picture on half of it. So I would take pictures, you know, and the dial, the motor drive, you wound it up. You didn't need a battery. You wound it up, and so you took a picture, and it went, and then what I would do is, because it was on a 35 millimeter thing, I would plan the next picture. So when I would have it, and then I would develop it in, the enlarger would have these two images that were right. So that was anyway. So I was doing that, and and these are very limited cameras. They're not like a Leica or a Nikon or a Hasselblad, or you're not a professional camera. But I, I had a friend. Oh, what's his name? He was the photo editor at the Village Voice, Alan Tannenbaum, and he took pictures of John Lennon getting shot. He was with John Lennon that whole day. He got there in the morning, went to the studio, took pictures of them in the car, in the studio, having lunch, coming home, getting shot. And basically, John Lennon was assassinated because the guy who shot him with a 22, and it was in out. I mean, it didn't hit anything. He just had a hole through him, and the cops were there like that, but they weren't real cops. They put him in what they call this, like it's called a hospital chair that fits in a car. So they strapped him in and put him in the police car and let him bleed to death in the car. Meaning he could. He said, "I'm going to walk to the hospital. I'm fine. I just need to, And they let him bleed to death. Anyway, it's an assassination. And Alan took pictures of all of that, and of course they put him in jail and took his film, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, before this, um, I'm taking these pictures. Plus, Lisette Modell and Cardi Brisson were my mentors, my photo mentors. And Donna was like, we would go there, and every Friday night for a potluck dinner, and we would do a critique. Which critique is greater than criticism, because we'd all have 10 prints. We put them on the floor. Everyone would talk about them, not like, "Oh, that sucks." But what about this? What about how'd you do this? Blah blah. And we were a community. So, and that's most of those people were in Magnum too. So anyway, so those are kind of photographer guys I knew. So I was always taking pictures, and I was still doing that. And so she got once really upset with me because people took my pictures and published them. And they were like, with a crappy little, carnival camera and a half frame. So I said, "Listen, baby, you are the photographer. Me, I'm just Al. I do what I do." And she said, "Okay, you're right. Okay, sorry." But pretty much within a few months of that, we kind of split, because I knew this, and I knew this when I met her on the subway, because we had this like electric connection. We were going over the Waynesburg Bridge, and I had made a flying saucer that was like half the size of a football field, because I was trying to make one it was a model, because the guys, when Xenon opened kind of around Close Encounters, so they wanted a flying saucer in the roof of the thing that would come down, and that would be dry ice and all that kind of stuff. And so I was making a model to see how and we could do it, and blah blah blah. And I left it on the roof of this building, and when everyone in New York, and I had a switch in the loft that I just hit the switch, and the whole thing would like, and everyone on the east side of Manhattan could see the flying saucer landing on my roof, and so that was always pretty much fun. Anyway, so we were going. When I met her, what happened was I'm sitting there, and everybody else is Hispanic or Hasidic, right? And here's this cute little girl, And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at her, and she's looking like that picture. I said, that's her uniform, and she had this big pea coat, and it was like bigger than she was. And I said, I bet you that's her dad. Her dad was probably in the military. Anyway, so she drops a lens cap, right? And I walk over, and she's walking down, taking pictures at the sliding doors, right? And she goes on to the next one. She's like, got the camera inside her coat, and she's taking pictures. And I basically pick up the lens cap, and I look at it. It says Canon, right? I had, there was a really great photo store called Olin's on 34th Street. Right? They had every kind of camera you could ever want, and they would have like just big things of lenses and cameras for nothing. Like so you could buy a Leica body relatively cheap, $100. But Light's lens, forget about it; they're expensive. But the Japanese Canon were knocking lights. When they were allies, the Nazis gave the Japs a whole bunch of Leica cameras, and the Japs knocked them off. And the bodies, they knocked the lens off great, and the bodies they didn't do it because the thing about Leica was the way the film carriage was. You put the film in there and had this little door, and you put it on the focal plane, and then you locked it down. So when you would turn the film and it would go through after you took the picture, the unexposed film would get to this place and go click. And then, when you're doing this, you did this, and it pushed the film against the focal plane. So when you took that picture, one of the, like a Nikon or anything where the film is kind of loosely moving in the carriage, it's that little bit not in focus. But when, 35 millimeter negative and then you blow it up, it's not, unless you're really an devotee, you're not really going to notice it, right? If it's a great picture, it's like you're really not going to notice it. But Leica's, it's like unbelievable, right? So that's the Germans. They're really pretty amazing. So that was the beauty of a Leica, right? So I had a Leica body, and I had Canon lenses because you couldn't afford the Leica lenses. The body was $100, $200 maybe, but the lenses were like $500-$600. This is in 1970. It's like, come on. But you could buy a Canon lens that was just as good, not quite as not really a Leica lens, but good, and for $15. They'd have them full of. So all of us who were photographers, we go down there, and you'd break something, you just wouldn't have it fixed. You just go buy another one, and they had chemicals and paper, and it was really cheap. It was like the job lot of photography stuff, right? Really big stores down on 34th Street or 30th there, kind of near Macy's and Gimbel's. And it had been a department store, but it was gigantic, right? And had everything. And when they started having video, they always had the best and the most affordable and everything in between. So she drops a lens cap, and I see it, pick it up, and it says Canon. So I go over to her and tap her on the shoulder, and she looks at me and I've got her little lens cap, and I'm facing it towards her, and it says Canon. I said, "Oh, you have a Leica." And she looks at me, and her eyes are blinking. She goes, "You're a photographer?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a photographer. I'm an artist." "You're an artist. What do you do?" I said, "Oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that." She goes, "Where do you live?" And I said, and we're going over to Williamsburg Bridge, and there's the only building that's not been burnt down is the one I live in. It takes up a whole friggin' block. It's 7 stories high, size of a football field, and on top of it's a flying saucer. And I said, "That's my place." And she goes, You mean? Yeah, I said, that's my sculpture. That's the kind of stuff I do. I build nightclubs, and I do a lot of interesting. But I'm an artist. I paint. I sculpt. I'm a photographer. I used to be a photojournalist. Lisette Modell is my bud. And what? because no one knows who Lisette Mondell is unless you're a real photographer. And I go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so we're talking, and the electricity, I mean, we're almost like ripping the clothes off because she loves doing things in public. So she's like ready to rip my clothes off. But the place is like crowded with Hasids with the big hats and the girls with the 10 kids in the strollers and the Hasidic guys and the Hispanic guys. And we're the only two Anglos. And anyway, so we go over the bridge and we stop off at Marcy. And I turned around and she's already walked to the next car. And this is my stop. I didn't get her name, I didn't get her phone number, didn't get anything. Door opens, and with the Hasid, they are like a ravaging crew. So if you're right on the door, you have to quickly get out, or they'll run right over you. And you have to basically go to the wall and put yourself against there, and they're all going out. Because if you get in their way, they're going to run right over you, crush you, and you end up under the wheels of the subway. So, I'm right at the door. I'm looking at her, and she's going that way, and then we get at Marcy, and the door's open, so I got to get out. So I do. I get against the wall, and they all run, and and they're running down the stairs, and I turn around, and she's standing right next to me because she went in the next car and realized that I didn't follow her, and the door's open, and either she got pushed out by the Sids, or but she wasn't run over, and I turned around, and there she was. I said, "Oh, there you are." And I said, "Well, this is my stop. This is my neighborhood. Here, let me show you my neighborhood." So I took her. We went down. The crowd had already gone. We went to Mrs. Gottlieb's bakery, and they had these big black and white cookies. I buy her one, and she has great coffee, and European coffee, and Don is a total. She loves her coffee, and so she's wow. She's like nibbling on it, getting off on the sugar, and because these things are, if you've never had a Hasid black and white sugar cookie, anyway, so she's like really, and it was kind of cloudy, but when we came out of the bakery, the sun was shining, and we're walking down Roebling's, and on the other side is where Italians had lived. So it was still pizzeria. Really, really, really great Italian New York pizza. I mean, real New York pizza. And if you ever saw Saturday Night Fever, right? John Travolta goes in the pizza shop and gets it 2 slices and bends them in half and eats them. That's pizza. That was Williamsburg, Brooklyn. At the subway up above, that's the J and the M train, right? So and that's Broadway, right? It goes down to the river. Anyway, so we walked 1 block and went down Roebling's, and we're hitting all these places. And everyone knows me. I've been there already 4 or 5 years. The head rabbi is my landlord and my rabbi. He wants me to become a rabbi. I'm going to his Lubavitcher, right? Studying, to be a rabbi, right? And so it's kind of why I have this beard. So we walk down and we get to I forget what road that is. It was right where Roberto Clemente. They just built this because the Jews burnt all. They were changing from all these were factories. It was like Williamsburg, Brooklyn used to be what China is, right? Making tchotchke crappy shit. That's what they did, right? So they I don't know if you ever had Chungking Chinese food. That's made by Hasidic, and not Chinese people, but Hasidims, right? That's why it tastes so. What is this? Anyway, so we're right on that road. She looks down and she says, "Oh, I kind of live, that over there." And I said, "Well, okay, it's a beautiful day." And I said, "See that place? That's where I live. That building, the Flying Swords is right there. See that big loading, right? And see that big hole in the building? That's a service elevator. And there's a little doorbell. You hit that, and there's a big loud bell in the elevator, and the guy who is the super of the building, he runs the elevator. He'll come down. You say, "Hey, I want to find out," and he'll bring it to me. If you want to come and visit, that's where I'll be. She goes, "Okay," and she's like, heads off that way, and I'm watching her go, and she's so cute. She's just a cute little sexy button, and in that big peacoat, it's like down to her ankles, and so she's walking, and so I turn around and I go up on the loading platform, and Kirby, that's the super, he's smoking a joint, and he hands it to me, and he goes, "So who's that? Your new girlfriend?" I said, "Well, maybe." Anyway, so he takes me up. I go up the stair, because he takes me up to the sixth floor, because I live on the seventh floor, and that was added on. And the city and the utility, nobody, when everyone looks at their records of that building, it says it has six floors, but I live on the seventh floor. And there's a roof with a flying saucer that would be the eighth floor. Anyway, so so you get up the elevator, then you have to go up these stairs and then down the hallway and another stairs and then go into my place. Or you can get off at the sixth floor, and there's the gigantic space, and there's another staircase at the other end. You've got a choice, right? Anyway, but if you go up that staircase, that's the place is right there, instead of having to go all the way that way up the staircase and then all the way back. And so I go up there, and I have this big, beautiful, gigantic walk with windows all around. I can see from the 59th Street Bridge all the way to the Statue of Liberty, on the whole east side of Manhattan. It's gorgeous, beautiful, unbelievable, right? All these gigantic windows, like 8 foot high, 4 foot wide, gigantic windows. And right at the middle of it, I have a little stage that leads me up, and I have a table that has a cutout so I can roll into it. And that's my little typewriter is there. It's got all these little drawers with all kinds of stuff in it. And I roll myself a little Youb, and I make myself a cup of tea, and I sit down and I start reading something. And I just, the sun is like gleaming off the East River, and I just, it's nice. And boom, 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 right? I get off my stage and walk over to the fire door and slide it open, and there's Kirby with little Donna. And he goes, "This little girl looking for you, Al." And it's kind of, and she comes in, and she's just looking. She's like, her eyes are like, pie plates, and she's just looking around because she just walked through 18,000 square feet of crazy stuff that I have everywhere, and Kirby going on and on about all our adventures, and so he used to be the dude of Soho and Tribeca and blah blah blah, and he's done this, and he's like going on about me. And because I knew his uncle, who was the big super in Soho, Eddie. And they were the Green family that I knew from Harlem when I was a little boy. So I knew Kirby and Eddie when I was a little boy. And that's the thing about New York. If you keep meeting the same people, so that's like, I had buddies that were Ukrainian. When I was a little kid, when I was about 6, I hung out with a bunch of different guys. And my grandma said, Al, I don't think you should hang out with those guys. I go, why? She said, well, yeah, you get along with them really great. You get along with everybody. But Ukrainians, if you diss them or do anything that they don't like, they will hold a grudge forever. So just step back from it. Don't say anything. Don't do anything to piss them off, but just slowly disconnect, right? And there's a way of doing it, and if you do it that way, then it all will be appreciated, And then years later, when I was building a big fancy restaurant, the guys who had the cash were those guys that I knew when I was 6, right? And they like, ow, and they said, what happened to you? And I said, and they said, I know, my grandma, meaning their grandma, who knew my grandma, basically told them that, they needed to disconnect from me because at some point something would happen and then their Ukrainian would take over and they wouldn't want to really hurt me. And she really liked me and didn't want them to hurt me and she didn't want to have to slap them around. And so it was all understood, right? So it was all, and then we became great buds. But by that time they were like killer gangsters. And so, and they said, yeah, it was a good idea that you did that. But now we can be buds. You're building this nice club for us. They backed Save the Robots. So, let's see if they have Save the Robots. Save the Robots, nightclub in New York. Yep, there it is. And this place it's like a supermarket or something. And the building had been condemned. And so we just, one end of it was really like a supermarket, right? And but the other end had so we didn't spend any time really. I did everything with lights. Right? These images are from way in the day before the robot kind of lights. This is old school lighting. So anyway, and Carell is this gangster. Woo. And again, both these guys, all 4 of them, were different flavors of Ukrainians and gypsies and whatever. And it was great because I always made them happy, always, on time, on budget, you name it. And it always was like, whoa. And so it was great because there was never any angst. Their whole life was angst about something. And half the time they would come and talk to me about their neuroses or something, right? So it. So anyway, Donna, right, comes. She's like looking around, and there's a big open space, 3,000 squares open, and there's one wall going here and one wall going over there, and it used to be one big space, and I turned it into 3 big spaces. And then there's a staircase that goes up to a pyramid with all these Masonic stained glass windows, right? And at the top of the pyramid, I put a platform. That was my bed. Right? So, and you could only get in that bed by going up a 12-foot ladder and stepping on the top step and stepping into the platform. And getting down was even more because the ladder was like. And that's one reason why my body and hips are so messed up because I spent years on the tops of ladders, being fully petite, on the ladders. I used to walk ladders, on top of it. He's like 12 feet up in the air on top of the ladder and he's like bouncing the ladder. Right? So, now, a number of times, whee! So, but I'm still here in one piece. But that's why I'm a creaky kind of guy. Plus, then I became 240 pounds I shouldn't have been. But anyway, so she's looking around and she goes, oh my God, you have a kitchen. I said, yep. Because, when I got there, it was a factory building, right? So, and it had been a garment kind of thing. So they had these, I don't even know what to call them, but these great sinks, big, gigantic sinks, almost like concrete. There's a term about them, really old, right? And they had just a pile of sewing machine tables, the Singer metal things, and then they have this nice, beautiful, like butcher block wood that has a cutout that the sewing machine fits into, right? So there was a pile of that, right? And they had this box, this thing that was about 12 foot by 8 foot that was a bobbin, meaning had all these holes in it with rods in it that, thread was put on it and it would feed into the sewing machines. And the so there were piles of these butcher block tables that fit exactly into this box. So and the box, I just kind of lined it up this way, put it on a dolly, and pushed it through the fire door. And it made it by that much on either side. Put it bang there, and put the butcher blocks just bing, 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 right? And then built a whole counter over here goes and stuck one of these gigantic sinks right there, and put there's a gas line coming up, put a cock on it, and put because it just had a cap. I took the cap and the gas was gushing out. I put the valve on and turned it off, and put other valves on it, and had gas heating, gas hot water heater, gas stove, and also electric stove. Whatever I found on the street, I kind of dragged up there. And so I had this beautiful kitchen with all these shelves made out of butcher block. Everything's butcher block. And she said, "You have a kitchen and 2 stoves and a gigantic refrigerator." I said, "Yep." Mm-hmm. And then she looked. She goes, "You have a bathroom." And I had this gigantic, like swimming pool of a bathtub with the lion's claws on it. And I got it out of a building that was on fire down the street. My friend Olga, Billy's cousin, who's a midget or dwarf or about 4 foot. A friend of mine who's a fireman, he got a hold of me and said, "There's this crazy woman here. You gotta get her out of here. Building's burning down, and she's making us drag this, because she was staying at this loft and she found a bathtub, and it was gigantic. And it was amazing. Oh, just, it's a big 30-gallon hot water heater. Only problem was it didn't have an overflow drain. So if you didn't turn it off at the right time, it would overflow. And if you fell asleep, it was so big, it could take a long time to fill up. And if you nodded out, it could have a little bit of a flood. But it was gigantic space. So every time it did it, I would just brush the water all over the floor. And that's how I washed the floor, right? Anyway, so she, "You have a bathtub and a toilet." And I go, "Yes, honey, why?" She goes, I live in a storage container, and I have to shit in the bucket. Ah. And she's, "And you have a dark room." Ah. I said, "Honey, you don't have to live in a storage. You can stay here." "I can't." And she stopped crying, just hugging, and and within like 15 minutes, we're having wild sex all over the place, right? So, and that's when I knew this girl was, she's gonna be a lot of fun, but baby, why is she living in a container? And why? Because she had gotten in trouble, misconstrued. She didn't do anything wrong, but someone set her up because they looked. It's a long story. That basically, she left California to come to get away from the FBI, who was blaming her for something she never did, because she just looked like the other person. The other person said, "Oh, you can stay in my fancy house and drive my Mercedes," and she should have known better, because these 2 girls looked just like them. And Don had this, that picture I showed you, the 3 girls. They all looked the same, and same height, red hair. Anyway, so she's living with me for about a month, and then one day I'm drinking my coffee, I'm looking out the window, and this is Williamsburg. All the buildings are burnt down. There's only Hasids and Hispanic guys. And Mr. Chuchi Frito's store is across the street, and where all the OGs hanging out. And there's this is the 1970s when Chrysler went broke, and so the federal government bought all their cars from Chrysler. But there's this black Chrysler down there with like a 3 millimeter antenna on the trunk. So I said, "Oh, the FBI." And I said, "Donna, why's the FBI after you?" And she was like, "What?" And because she thought she's out in the middle of nowhere, no one's going to find her. And I said, "Yeah, right there. Look, that's the FBI." And she goes, "You're not going to get rid of me. You're going to throw me out." I said, "No. Don't worry. I'll take care of this." And this is the first time I was taking care of everything, but this was like one of those big things. And, so, I went down there. I went downstairs, hit the buzzer. Kirby shows. She goes, what's the FBI after Donna, right? And I said, "I don't know. We'll find out that. But let's deal with the first things first." So, we come down. I go across the street, go into Mr. Chuchi Frito's, and there's the OGs reading the newspaper. And, "Oh, why's the FBI out for Donna, right?" Because no one's coming after the OGs. No one's coming into our neighborhood, period, right? This is like no man's land. And I go, I want to just get rid of them, So I said, "Mr. Chuchi Fritos, can you make do you ever have Cubano sandwich? It's like ham and cheese on really crisp bread, and you put in this thing that flattens it, and it's like pretty, and has pickles and horseradish sauce. It's really yummy. Cubano sandwich. 2 Cubano sandwiches and 2 Cubano coffees, which is like, I don't know if you ever had Cubano coffee, but it is like espresso to the 10th power. And so, I get a tray. I get, I put a towel over my arm. I always have a roll of electric tape in my thing. I tear up, and I was at this time pretty much clean shaven, right? And so I put the little, plastic electric tape under my nose so I look like Adolf Hitler. And I go out there, and as I walk out, I grab a sweet potato and put it in my pocket. And I told the boys, I said, "Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go give these guys the sandwiches and coffee," and they're going to be freaked out because they've been there for a long time, and I bet you they haven't eaten anything or had any coffee. They kind of thought they could find something around here, and they're freaked out about being in no man's land. So, and they're FBI, so they're not New York cops. They're like a little out of their neighborhood, and so I'm going to stick the potato in their exhaust, and I'm going to break off the little antenna on the back of their car. So they have FBI radios. They don't have New York City cop radios. They don't have the walkie-talkie things that bounce off of everything. They need that little antenna to make communications. So you boys go out there and do your little dance with them. And so everyone goes, "Okay, we know what to do." So, I go out to the tray, and they're like reading something, and I knock on the thing, and they're like woken, they're not really aware of their 360, because I just walked up to them and knocked on the window. I could have had a gun. I could have taken them out, but I didn't. I knocked on it. I had the thing in the tray and the sandwiches and the 2 cups of coffee, and I said, "Gentlemen, you're here on a stakeout. You need some substance here." And the sandwiches are kind of wrapped up in that kind of butcher paper, and the cups are, nice paper ones with the lids, and not styrofoam, and really, really good coffee. And so they take it, and they were like really hungry. So you smell that sandwich, you can't help but want to eat this thing. And so they said, "Wow, this is amazing coffee." And they don't even ask who I am, why I'm giving it to them. I just said, "You're here on a stakeout. You need some substance," and I walk away. Right? So I'm holding a little tray. I go in the back. They're like, chowing down. I'm seeing that they're not looking in the mirrors. They're not looking at their 360. They're just like, they were really hungry, and they're just chowing it down and drinking that coffee. And I go by inside the car, and I kind of get right behind it. Stick the sweet potato in the exhaust, and I have my electric clippers. I'm Mr. Electric, and I have my dikes. I snap that off, and I walk over to the thing, and Kirby's seen me do all of this, and he starts chuckling, and he lights up a doob and hands me one, and he lights another one up himself, and we're like in the shadow of the roof of the, unless you're really looking for us, you can't see us. And so we're watching this go down, and then about 5 minutes later, about 20 young Turks come out of Mr. Chuchi Frito's. They circle the FBI car, and the FBI guys don't even notice this, right? And so they get around and they grab the car and they start shaking it up and down. And the guys are like, ah. And they get out and they start screaming at these guys. The guys are just looking at them, right? They're like on the line, and the two FBI, and they pull up their little 38s, and one of the OGs slaps them like something out of our gang, whack off, right? And they're like so shocked, and he takes their guns, right? And they're like, right? And so the other guys who are there, they pull out what are known as MAC 10s. These are automatic pistols that shoot about, they have a clip for about 20 bullets, 9mm, or 22s, I don't know, but it's a machine gun, right? It's like an Uzi. Right? It's a Hispanic version of an Uzi. And they all got pointing at, right? And you can't, we're FBI. And these guys start shooting at the ground, screaming, dance, FBI, dance, machine guns, right? And we're like, and it's echoing out because Roberto Clementi's over there. It's just like echoing everywhere. All this, they don't have suppressors. It's like loud and it's just echoing everywhere. And this is no man's land. I mean, this happens a lot, So these guys stop. The FBI stops, and the OG slaps him again and says, "Take your clothes off." And so he leaves them in their underpants and their socks and makes them run back towards Roebling's to get on the subway. And so that leaves the FBI car, and in the back is all the FBI stuff and guns and you name it, whatever, goodies that, and the OGs take all of that and say, "Thanks, Al." And they take everything they can out of that vehicle. They take it down about 20 blocks right near Broadway, right? So when you get up the subway, you can see this thing. They set it on fire, and then they spray paint on the side of it. They kind of, because they took the tires, they took everything off, right? And they set it on fire, and then they next day spray painted, stay FBI, right? So the FBI doesn't show up. But when Don and I go into Manhattan, because I got her a job, I have stuff to do, I know my 360, so and I'm sticking with her for this period of time. I walk her to work, I do this, and I see that we're being followed, and et cetera, et cetera. And so I basically ignore it. I said, they can't do anything to us. We didn't do anything wrong. And if you had done something wrong, they are just harassing you, right? Because you did something that pissed them off, and they really can't do anything to you, right? But we have to stop this because they'll do this until they drive us crazy, and we're not, we want to drive them crazy, right? So basically, one day, and I keep when they're pretending like they're being cool and they're observing us and they think we're stupid and we can't see them. I always break the fourth wall. And so anyway, one day this nice limousine pulls up and this window goes down and this guy in a nice suit and a nice haircut says, come over here. And I said, why should I? He goes, well, we have to come to an agreement. And I want you to come to our office and we're going to negotiate. I said, no. You're going to come to my lawyer's office and I'm not coming to your place. I want a more safer environment. But yes, sure, I'm up for it. And so the guy that let's see, lawyer for the Chicago Seven. That was my lawyer. William Kunstler. That was my lawyer. Because I worked for, what's his name? Guy who started NIPERG. So anyway, this guy had a ball with him. So anyway, Don had a really talent for things of that nature, right? So for the 8 years we were together, but she really only had 3 other events of that nature that was like, my God. After that, again, it only occurred because she was that cancer that was in her shell. By the 3rd year she was with me, she was out of that shell 100%. And that's why she is the great. I mean, she was a great person already before she met me. She when she was in San Francisco, she was Annie Leibovitz's assistant. She was in charge of the Rolling Stone darkroom, like at 22. No, Donna was, yeah. But I did help her kind of, but she was already out of that. She was a party girl. She was loads of fun, and she was like what I tell people. She was my training wife. She definitely, all my other wives gave thanks, and a lot of them knew her. But majority of the women in my life knew each other. Because I never, I can't be with her. No, I can't stand that. No, they like Judy and Donna became an herbalist because Donna could learn anything. I mean, I taught her to be an electrician. But no, Donna Ann McAdams is the bomb. Anyway, how long have we been doing this? Oh, 2 hours look at that, 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 12 seconds. Let's see. Let's get rid of some of these and see what you guys have been saying. Yaubo, cool. Hey Al. Hi. Let's see. Good day, wherever you are. Let's see. Good night, Bob. Okay. Dozy. Austin. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody there. Hope you're having a good time. How about some more thumbs up? Anybody want to get a hold of me? Get a hold of me at the dudeawake42 at Gmail. I have a lot of threads. I get a lot of stuff. At some point, I have to rejigger everything. I have to find myself another digital guru. I probably need another email site because I get so much through my email, and I don't even get spam or anything. But I have all these threads. I have lots of people who send me data, stories, things from newspapers and magazines and journals and you name it. They send me YouTube and every other place, and they send it to me through my email, and so I get at least 100 or 200 things every freaking day. And if I don't stay abreast of it, if somebody sends me a personal one, if I don't see it right off the bat, 3 or 4 days later, it's like 500 things down the line. So I had to figure that one out. So anyway, what time is it? Oh, 10 a.m. I think So Austin, tell me about yourself. Krasinski, right? Did I pronounce that correctly? Where are you from? What do you do? How you doing? Druzy. Have a good night, Bob. Past my bedtime. Okay. Uh, Going to fly off. Okay. Light left. So you're the only one. Who else is there? There's four of you there. Who else is there? Um, Come out of the. Join the cadre. What do you guys think of what's going on? Like I said, this is nothing new. This has happened before. Uh, the planet's not going nowhere. You know, you want to see people having a bad time? Just look at the people at the Gaza Strip, the people in Ukraine, the people in Africa. Uh, there's that guy. What's his name? Uh, yes, this guy. His YouTube is Middle Nation, right? Middle Nation. Go check him out on the YouTube. He's really, really good. And I don't know if
sciatic nerve pain. This new research will shock you.
Oh,
For
my
years,
God.
doctors have blamed steering's position and job creation.
This guy.
A policy that prioritizes the development of the domestic economy. And like I said before, prioritizes the manufacturing of goods from their own raw materials, from their own raw minerals and their resources, rather.
So I've been around a lot of scholarly folk, and this guy, he is sharper than a razor blade, and he really has, he's saying that all of what's going down with Donnie and the wars and everything, it is basically to split the world not into a unipolar thing, not between America and China. No, America is going to pull back and leave Europe by itself, right? Donnie's, he wants Canada and Mexico and South America. He's going after Colombia, and he wants Greenland because that's And in 1984, they called it. Again, 1984, things got broken into three different geopolitical groups, not two, not a polar thing, but a triple thing, and it kept everyone in line, right? And it's a never-ending kind of war. It's like the Cold War. Wars going on, lots of people dying, but no, maybe a few not atomic bombs here and there. I would not doubt someone lofting, like how the Chinese had the balloon fly over us the other year, 2 years ago, right? And now there are all of these drones everywhere, right? And some of these drones are pretty big things, right? And so I don't know who has what, but it's not difficult. If you were to put so when they detonated the first hydrogen bomb out there in the Altos in the 50s, and we were starting to have silicon devices, they detonated that sucker, and it like all the power in Hawaii went off, and in some of the islands near Japan went off, right? And because the electromagnetic pulse of that device, of the atomic bomb itself, gives off a tremendous electromagnetic pulse. And I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of the of atomic tests out there in Nevada. And a lot of times you'll see that mushroom cloud going up, and there are these little streamers all around it, right? What that is when that thing went off, it bang, put out an electromagnetic pulse, and it ionized whatever was in the air, in the ground, the dust, or whatever, and bang, put it in an electro. It's the current is there, and it's following up that current. So that's what that is. So there are nuclear weapons that mean, they've tested them, and one of the reasons why they stopped blowing them up above ground is that as we got more and more silicon stuff, we were destroying it. So it's called an EMP, electromagnetic pulse. Now you can generate a really humongous, like that movie with the boys, the 13 that robbed the Las Vegas gambling joint during the middle of the fight. Their disruption to get into the wall was to have a artificial device that created an EMP, and they did it. They put it in a truck and they drove it on top of a parking garage and set it off. Now, you were to put that in float it up about 20,000 feet up in the air, or maybe higher even, and set that device off. It doesn't even have to be a nuclear device, but a EMP device. You could probably knock out all of the electromagnetic, all the electrical devices. Your car, would fry every silicon chip in every car. Your car wouldn't work. Anything that wasn't, protected would be fried, because silicon chips are pretty sensitive. So that would be, and our electric grid and our whole infrastructure is pathetically hasn't been kept up for the last 30 years. Once Mr. In 72, when we went up the gold standard, Mr. Rothschild basically bought us. We're all his slaves. We are owned. You drive anywhere, you see the incorporated village of this, the incorporated city, the incorporated county. That means Mr. Rothschild owns you. And you go to a court, right? And there's the American flag, and then there's the American flag with the gold little rim around it. That is the Admiralty law, and that's what our business. That's what everything is run on. You have, civil law, and then you have Admiralty law. That's why those two American flags. And you don't know any of this. And it goes, go watch Jordan Maxwell. He's a boy who knows all of this, right? And it goes on and on and on. So we are being set up, and Donald Trump, he is like the Judas goat, right? He's leading us to this. Because he's doing all this stuff, this 2025 stuff, the Heritage Foundation. They are not, conservative. They're not, and no, they are part of this gang and this crew that we are not a part of, right? Now, we're not all going to die or anything like that, but it's going to be a little messy thing. It's like if the lights went out like this and I disappeared. Big deal. Me, it wouldn't bother me at all. I'm here. I'm not going to, I got, tons of canned food. I'm not really worrying about anything. And my deep green, I could walk to it relatively easily. I'd probably wait a few weeks till it got warm, and then I'd go there and hang there because I got tons of canned food there. Right. So anyway, but it doesn't have to happen. If we, just a few of us, just us here in the the 570 or so of the cadre, every day and every way you took the piece of the earth and made it stronger, this ain't going to happen. It's going to just keep putting along like it's right now. And more people will become realized. Like, oh my God, this is, Let's see. Come on, Austin. I thought you'd jump in. Or somebody. Oh, well, you're down to one. So maybe it's time for me to go to bed. Here it is, 2 hours and 23 minutes and 55 seconds. Maybe I'll wait for 24:22 or something like that. Well, I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll keep doing this until I can't. And but I'm happy to be here with you. I love you all. And catch you later.